What up, y'all? This is Michael Miles with the Plot Twist 215, and today I'm excited to present to you my review of Wakanda Forever. If you have not seen this film up to this point, you are simply asking for spoilers, and I got them all in this video. So just let you know, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. There are spoilers for Wakanda Forever in this film. If you ain't trying to hear it, just skip past this and watch another one of the joints I put up. But in this film, in this video, I want to cover some of the things that I really liked about the film, like some of the pros and then some of the cons, some things I wasn't really feeling. But I would love to hear your thoughts as well. So people have had, some mixed reviews about Wakanda Forever. I think overall the consensus has been good about the movie. So with that being said, I'm going to get into giving my pros and my cons about Wakanda Forever. And before I do that, please take a second to subscribe to the channel. Click that little button that's in the bottom right side of your screen to subscribe to the channel. Let me know that you like this video and stay tuned for future videos. So, first and foremost, my first item on my pros list or things that I liked about the film. Let's start with Shuri. So, regardless of how you feel about her being the new Black Panther, spoiler alert, regardless of how you feel about that, I think they did a really good job of developing her character in this film. Right, in the first film, we saw her being, the little sister role, that type of thing. But in this one, you see her maturity and you see her take on different demeanors in this film than when we saw in the first one. And what I mean by that is you see, and this is a shout out to Letitia Wright, being able to pull off those emotions of anger and wanting revenge and all those different things. You start to see how T'Challa's death and someone else's death, which I'll get to in a second, really kind of forced her to grow a lot as a character. And it's really cool to see that transformation in film and all the pain that she really had to carry, given a couple of people's deaths and everything that's going on in her life, and then the guilt of feeling like she fell short of being able to help her brother in a time that she really needed it, given her gifts and her abilities and things that she's able to do. She wasn't able to come up with a cure for his sickness. And this is a shout out to the MCU. One of the biggest strengths of the MCU is their character development, along with their storyline, and I would even say their casting. But their character development, their ability to develop their characters in a way that really keeps us watching and really keeps them interesting, I think is really good. And I think they did that a lot with Shuri's character. Again, regardless of how you feel about her being Black Panther, I think it makes the most sense. I don't think that was a surprise to many, but I think they did a really good job of really developing her in this character. Again, shout out to Letitia Wright. The second thing I like about this film, let's look at my man M'Baku. Can we talk about him for 1 second? All right. So M'Baku is, overall, I think generally speaking, fans like him, right? Winston Duke is a great actor. He did a really good job of, returning and really, really did a good job with M'Baku in this film. I like how they gave him more, not just screen time, but more of a significant role. And we saw how the movie ended with him becoming king of Wakanda. Winston Duke went live, I think last week, and he talked a little bit about that. He took some questions from some of the folks that joined the live, and one of the people asked him, "What is M'Baku now officially king of Wakanda?" And he does. He confirms that he currently is. You see how the film, towards the end of it, it is when he shows up on Challenge Day. No one appears to challenge him, and so he becomes the king of Wakanda. So I love the direction that they're taking with this. It makes the most sense for him to be the next king. He's kind of been there ever since, and this is Winston Duke's really making the case for that and just really shining some light on the significance of M'Baku's character, which also shows some development as well. So I think they did a really good job of kind of developing him and having him play really more of a significant role within the franchise. Next up, can we talk about Namor? So I love. Namor just continues this whole trend of some of the villains in the MCU and really making them in such a way that audiences really empathize with them. And I think Namor continues that. We saw that with Thanos, we saw that with Killmonger, and I think they really did a good job with Namor in this film in that way. I think they did a good job of showing some background info, so he didn't just pop up on the scene. You saw some of the complexities of the character. It really showed how this is kind of goes, I think, into another area that I really like, how they just the comparison, and this is a shout out to a good friend of mine who pointed this out, and I agree with him, how they, when you look at Wakanda and you look at Tokatan, like they're very similar. Both are two kingdoms that were never colonized. They both have access to vibranium. They both have a champion, so to speak, that defends it. They both really are kind of staying in a level of obscurity and in isolation, with obviously with Wakanda being a little bit more interactive with the outside world. But you see Namor's heart with protecting his people and doing so with whatever he needs to do at whatever cost. And I think you really, I love how they went to his background, showed you how he got to where he's at and all that type of stuff. So I think they did a really good job, and I love the fact that he appears to, he's going to return. And so shout out to them. Namor was, I think, a pretty good villain, who kind of obviously, we see some change of, I don't know if it's a change of heart necessarily, but you see the alliance now between him and between the two kingdoms. So I think they did a really good job with him as well. The next thing I like about the film is how they show the different battles on the different fronts that Wakanda was facing with the death of T'Challa. So you have, and not just his death, but you see them dealing with some internal issues with a couple of deaths in the kingdom, and then you see the threat of Namor right out of nowhere, and then you also now you have the threats, so to speak, of the outside world, outside countries. And I'll say threats in air quotes because I mean it's Wakanda, right? But you still see them still wanting Wakanda stuff, because this whole idea is that Black Panthers, he's out of here, their protector is gone, so they're vulnerable. That's the perception. And I love how they kind of brought in that same idea that this country that hasn't been colonized, but you still have people who still want their resources and they can't have it, right? It's kind of like that real world, kind of tying in some of those type of themes. I love how they continue to do that in this film, and just really showed you some of the real challenges that the kingdom was facing throughout the film. And my very last pro that I'll put on this list is Riri Williams, so Ironheart. So this is just really honestly just continuing this whole Phase 4 kind of theme, so to speak. Not theme, but something that we've been seeing all throughout Phase 4 was with all of these different characters being introduced. It's a ton of new characters being introduced from the Disney Plus videos, Disney Plus shows, and the films. A ton of new characters being introduced in this phase. I still think Phase 4 is probably the weakest phase out of all the ones so far, which I think that they needed a Wakanda Forever going into Phase 5. But one of the highlights of which can be seen as a highlight is all these different characters that they've been introducing, and Riri Williams is one of them. I would have liked for her to kind of at least allude to the inspiration from being inspired by Tony Stark to create the suit that we see in the film. I'm sure they'll get more into that when we get into her show. But nonetheless, I love that she got a lot of screen time in this film. And so so I love the actress who plays her. I love it. It really was a good introduction in the film, and definitely with the type of relationship that her and Shuri are now forming. So that's all the nice stuff. All right, so let's get into the cons. I don't honestly have too many of them for this film, but I will start off with my first one. It has to do with, spoiler alert, Queen Ramonda's death. I think that was way too soon for them to do that. We just got finished burying the man, T'Challa, in the very beginning of the film, and then all of a sudden you hit us with the Queen dying as well. Now, granted, it does tie into Shuri's, again, going back to her character development, it does tie into what happens with her and what kind of pushes her to then now become fill the role of the new Black Panther. And it just was a little too soon. I think if that's the plan, you let the next movie come out, and then you take care, you get rid of her, but she dies in that film or during one of the crossover movies or whatever. It just would have been a lot. And by crossover movie, I just mean like maybe the next Avengers movie or something like that. But something like that. But I think that them doing that was too soon. I think a lot of people in the theater were not ready for that. We just was like, yo, for real. So I would have loved to have seen her continue. I think that was just a little too soon to do that. And really, my only other con in this film is some of it felt kind of rushed. And it just kind of felt kind of rushed. So one of the things that I think was a little unrealistic was towards the end of the film where you see Shuri and Namor fighting, and then he just got finished killing her mom, and then all of a sudden towards the end of it, now you see them kind of riding on the ship together, and now they have this peace treaty. I get it, I definitely get it, but it just kind of felt like I don't know. It just kind of felt a little bit rushed and like just unrealistic is probably more the word I want to go with. So I would have liked for them to have kind of maybe lingered in that space a little bit more between kind of the vendetta that she had against them, and then just kind of maybe gradually during the fight, some way that could have unfolded a little bit differently. That wasn't such a it would have made it a little bit more realistic. I like the movie overall, so I would give this movie, if I were to give it a rating out of 10, I would give Wakanda Forever an 8 out of 10. I think again with the MCU continuing I would say one of the biggest strengths with character development. I think we see that in this film, and I think that again with the Queen dying and that type of thing. Shout out to Killmonger, he does make an appearance in this movie. I do think that was also, I wouldn't necessarily put that as a pro. I do think that's interesting that they did that. I'm not too surprised because Michael B. Jordan was definitely at the premiere of the film, which definitely took the antennas up a little bit. So not too surprised about that. Do I think it was better than the first film? The verdict is still out on that for me. I think that the first Black Panther was definitely great in its own right, and I think that this is incorporating. I mean, a lot of movies came in between within the storyline between the first Black Panther and now. This is like post Endgame. It's post a lot of things. So to say if it was better than the first Black Panther, I don't know. It's a lot of things to consider with that. But I do think overall it was a good film. If you have not seen it, go check it out. Wakanda Forever is still in theaters. I'm sure it's going to be in theaters for a while, and it's still making bank. So check it out. With that being said, let me know what you think about what you thought about it. If you saw it, if you liked it, if you think that Shuri's, performance, or Letitia Wright's performance as Shuri, if you thought that was cool, if you like Namor, if you didn't think that, if you wanted to see someone else as the new Black Panther, let me know in the comments below. All right, with that being said, Michael Miles with the Plot Twist 215. Again, subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, let me know if you liked it, and all that good stuff. Until we see each other next time, or until you see me next time. Peace.